The sun beat down on the sleek glass facade of the luxury car dealership, its reflective surface casting a golden glow over the bustling sidewalk. A crowd had gathered, drawn by the spectacle of a brand-new yellow sports car gleaming like a polished jewel in the sunlight. Reporters jostled for position, influencers murmured into their phones, and assistants snapped photos with practiced precision. At the center of it all stood Julian Hayes, a 26-year-old tech prodigy whose maroon suit was as sharp as his reputation. He stepped out of the showroom with the confidence of a man who had conquered his world. From foster care to an 8-figure startup sale before his 25th birthday, Julian was a living testament to grit and ambition, admired, polished, and untouchable, but alone. Then, a cry shattered the hum of the crowd. "My son!" Heads turned. A frail, elderly black woman pushed through the onlookers, her bare feet slapping against the pavement. Her clothes were threadbare, stained and faded, hanging loosely on her gaunt frame. Gray streaked her hair, pulled back in a messy twist, and her face bore the weight of exhaustion and hunger. Yet her eyes burned with a fierce determination. She stumbled toward Julian, and before anyone could react, she threw her arms around him, pressing her cheek against his chest. The crowd gasped. Camera flashes erupted. "You're my boy," she sobbed, her voice raw. "You're him. I know. Those eyes." Julian froze, his polished demeanor cracking. Phones recorded every second, the crowd buzzing with whispers. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady but uncertain, "I think you're mistaken." But she clung tighter, her body trembling. "They took you from me. You were just a baby, my baby. I never stopped searching, not once. You look just like your father." Her voice broke. "They said you were gone forever, but I knew you were alive." Security guards moved in, their hands hovering, but Julian raised a palm, stopping them. His face was pale, his heart pounding. The woman's sobs grew louder. "Your name was Emmanuel," she whispered. "I named you after my grandfather. They took you when I couldn't afford milk. One bad week and they stole everything." The crowd murmured, skeptical. "Is she serious?" someone whispered. "A white millionaire, her son? She's delusional." But Julian didn't speak. Something in her voice, her desperation, stirred, a feeling he couldn't name. It wasn't pity, it was deeper, rawer. That night Julian couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. Emmanuel, my boy. Those eyes. He'd always known he was adopted, but the agency had given him nothing. Sealed records, no names, no photos. His parents were listed as deceased or unfit. That was it. But this woman, she wasn't guessing. She knew. Her trembling hands, her unyielding certainty, haunted him. By morning, he was back at the dealership, his polished exterior replaced by something vulnerable. She was there, sitting on the concrete, her back against the wall. In her lap, she clutched a crumpled photo and a broken locket. When she saw him, her eyes widened, unsure if she should move. "You came back," she whispered, her voice fragile. Julian sat beside her, the pavement cold beneath him. "I want to talk," he said. She held out the photo, its edges worn and faded. It showed a young black woman in a hospital bed, cradling a newborn. "That's you," she said, her voice trembling. "The last time I held you." Julian stared at the image, his hand unsteady. "Why did they take me?" he asked. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "I had no one. I was working 2 jobs, cleaning offices, barely making rent. I left you with a neighbor for 2 hours, and someone called CPS. They took you that day. I fought in court, but I couldn't afford a lawyer. They said I was unfit, that you'd be better off without me. I tried to find you, but the records were sealed. Then I saw you on the news. Your suit, that car, those eyes. You have your father's eyes." Julian's breath caught. "But I'm white." "You're not," she nodded. "Your father was white, blonde, like you. We met when I was cleaning offices downtown. We fell in love. He left when I got pregnant, and I was alone." Her voice was steady, despite the pain. "I raised you for 6 months before they took you." Julian sat in silence, his world unraveling. Everything he'd believed about his past, every assumption, was crumbling. Finally, he spoke. "Would you take a DNA test?" She nodded, her eyes unwavering. "I don't want your money or fame. I just want to know if you're mine, and if I'm yours." He looked at her, broken but honest, and for the first time, he questioned who he really was. A private lab was arranged, the test expedited. 2 days later, Julian walked into the clinic, his hands shaking, not from fear, but from hope. He'd spent his life believing he was alone, but if she was telling the truth, he hadn't been. The geneticist handed him a single page. His eyes scanned the text, landing on the number at the bottom. Parentage probability, 99.9%. His breath hitched. The room blurred. She was his mother. The barefoot woman everyone had dismissed was his biological mother. That afternoon, he found her in the same spot outside the dealership, a thin blanket draped over her shoulders. She was counting coins in her palm, unaware of his approach until he knelt beside her. She looked up, startled. "Julian." "She," whispered. He held up the folded paper. "I know now," he said, his voice breaking. "You're my mother. I'm your son." Tears streamed down her face as she pressed her hands to her mouth. She reached for him, and this time he hugged her back, no hesitation. For the first time, Julian felt home. The media exploded within hours. Photos of Julian and Clara Matthews walking hand in hand spread across the internet. Tabloids mocked the story, calling it a stunt. Others questioned her motives. But Julian posted the DNA results himself, with a caption, "This is my mother. She didn't abandon me." The world did. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in, some cruel, some heartfelt. Julian didn't care. He wasn't performing for the crowd. Clara moved into his penthouse, not out of pity but as part of their reunion. He ensured she had medical care, proper clothes, and space to heal from decades of loss. In an interview, he was asked what angered him most. His answer was simple. No one believed her. Poverty made her invisible. The system stole me and buried her in guilt. I spent my life thinking I was alone, while the one person who loved me most was suffering. Clara didn't ask for more, but Julian gave her everything. He founded the Clara Foundation, a shelter for mothers separated from their children and children raised without their truth. In its lobby hung a framed photo of Clara, eyes closed, tears falling as she hugged him that first day. Below it, a quote from Julian. "Not all angels wear white. Some wear tired eyes, torn clothes, and carry decades of pain." Clara called him Emmanuel, and he never corrected her. He wasn't just Julian Hayes, tech mogul. He was Emmanuel, a son lost and found. Their story rippled outward, a reminder that love could endure even the cruelest systems. And as they rebuilt their bond, Julian realized that his greatest success wasn't his wealth or fame. It was finding the mother who had never stopped searching for him.